Hello, team. We'll be conducting a sensitivity analysis as a tool for capital budgeting. During this training, I will propose quantitative and qualitative factors, methods, and techniques used to integrate risk into proper capital budgeting decisions. Before diving into sensitivity analysis, it's important to understand the main goal of financial management, which is to increase shareholder wealth. Financial managers do this by focusing on three main responsibilities: deciding where to invest money, choosing the best way to finance the business, and making sure the company has enough cash to handle its day-to-day operations. Capital budgeting plays a major role because it helps determine which long-term investments are most likely to create value over time. Measures like NPV and IRR are useful because they show whether a project is expected to be profitable, but they assume everything goes according to plan. In reality, things like sales, inflation, and material costs are always changing. That's why it's important to include risk in the capital budgeting process. It helps us see how those changes could affect a project's outcome and make better decisions when the market is unpredictable. Running a sensitivity analysis is a straightforward four-step process. First, we build our baseline NPV model. Then we choose one important variable like sales volume and change it by 10% or 20% while keeping everything else the same. This lets us see how much that one change affects the project's NPV. By comparing the results, we can identify which factors have the biggest impact on the project and where the greatest risks are. The numbers don't tell the whole story when it comes to risk. We also have to think about the factors that are harder to measure, like changes in government regulations or shifts in customer opinions about a brand. Those kinds of changes can quickly make our original assumptions inaccurate. Looking at these qualitative risks helps leaders make decisions that consider both the data and the company's overall strategy, instead of relying only on what's in a spreadsheet. Now, there are several ways companies can build risk into financial decisions. One option is the risk-adjusted discount rate, or RADAR, which uses a higher required rate of return for projects that have more risk. Another approach is the certainty equivalent method, which adjusts the expected cash flows based on how much risk management is willing to accept. When we use these methods along with break-even analysis, we get a better understanding of the risks involved and how much flexibility the company has if things don't go as planned. Excuse me. External financial methods help us understand how outside market conditions can affect a project. For example, the CAPA model uses a measure called beta to estimate how much market risk a project faces and what return investors would expect because of that risk. We also look at things like interest rates and currency exchange rates, since changes in the economy can affect a project's performance. By planning for those risks and using financial tools to hedge against them, companies can better protect their investments. Sensitivity analysis helps managers make better, more informed decisions. One useful tool is calculating the switching value, which is the point where a project's NPV falls to zero. This shows us how much room we have before the project stops creating value. For example, if the analysis shows the project stops creating if the analysis shows the project is highly sensitive to labor costs, the company can negotiate better labor contracts or set aside extra funds as a backup before moving forward with the investment. To wrap things up, sensitivity analysis is an important tool in capital budgeting because it helps us combine financial data with real-world risk when making investment decisions. Thank you for taking the time to join today's presentation. I've included the full list of references if you'd like to learn more or review the sources we discussed.